It was in 2017 when Irina Alexandrovna Smereva left Russia for Mexico, where she acquired her forged passport before traveling to Greece under the adopted identity of Maria Zala, a 35-year-old woman returning to Greece after she left the country as an infant 30 years ago. Upon her arrival, she was able to present all the official documents proving her Greek citizenship, in line with her cover story, and left no doubt that she was indeed who she claimed to be. By mid-2020, Irina had a well-established presence in the busy district of Pagrati, in Athens. Her Greek language skills were rapidly improving. Her profile of being a Greek child seeking to discover her roots had well settled among her acquaintances. Her business activities in the neighborhood of Pagrati brought her even closer to the local community, and she had even entered a romantic relationship with a man. In other words, all aspects of Irina's cover had been activated and Irina was fully operational as a deep-cover intelligence operative. But what was her mission? Why did she come to Greece? Stripped from their original identity, illegals are intelligence operatives who live in a foreign country under false identities for a prolonged period of time, sometimes even for decades. Their adopted identity enables them to move freely in places that they would otherwise couldn't. Without raising any suspicion, it is almost impossible for counterintelligence services to detect them, and if they do, it is usually too late. Illegals may be deployed with no clear mission. They are assets who act as a reserve force to be activated if and when the circumstances demand it. Irina had the possibility to move freely both in Greece and the European Union as a Greek citizen. Her hobby, photography, was an ideal cover for traveling as she could take pictures undisturbed, without attracting attention and raising suspicions about her double life and action. One of her first trips after her arrival in Greece was to North Macedonia, and in the last 5 years she had traveled with her fake passport to Mexico, Peru, Serbia, Montenegro, Paris, Croatia, and Italy. Other known travels were in early 2022 when Irina traveled to Moscow. She stayed there until April of the same year after she was allegedly tested positive for COVID-19. After she returned from Moscow in April, she made a trip to Paris. Her purpose of visiting all these countries is unknown. Between 2018 and 2020, and before obtaining Greek citizenship, Irina also traveled to Cyprus. But on that trip, she wasn't alone. It was a trip she made with her romantic partner. And that man was not the man she met in Greece. It was her real husband. Irina maintained a relationship for about 2 years with a Greek man, reportedly employed in the educational sector. As their relationship progressed, the couple decided to get married and they started preparing for their wedding. What the man didn't know, though, was that Irina was already married to another man. And he was too, an SVR operative. Irina's husband was operating in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, under the fake name of Campos Wittich, posing as a child of an Austrian father and Brazilian mother, raised by his grandparents in Vienna. He ran a series of 3D printing companies in Rio de Janeiro where he had been living for about 2 years. Campos was also a Russian illegal, with the surname Smerov. Irina married him in Russia before their missions began and took his surname. It is unknown if the couple met in other locations during their deployment in Greece and Brazil. Irina's operation in Greece seemed to be without any obstacles. She was able to move freely in Greece, remaining under the radar of Greek authorities. However, in the beginning of 2022, a major event shook not only all of Russia's security apparatus, but its ripples echoed around the world. On February 24, 2022, Russia's President Vladimir Putin ordered the country's military forces to launch an attack against Ukraine. As Russian forces advanced into Ukrainian territory, Russia's diplomatic relations with several countries severely deteriorated. Russian diplomats were expelled from many embassies across the world, and among them many Russian intelligence officers serving at embassy posts under diplomatic cover. Between the beginning of 2022 and late 2023, over 34 countries, mostly in Europe, have expelled over 700 officials from Russian diplomatic establishments. Illegals, though, do not fall under that category, and their deployment not only continued, but intensified. After losing many of its valuable spy assets, illegals became essential in providing Russian officials back in Moscow the much-needed intelligence. The major disruption that Russia's intelligence collection network suffered, mainly in Western Europe and the United States, presented an opportunity for counterintelligence authorities to further disorganize Russia's intelligence operations abroad. In many countries, security measures were tightened in anticipation of a likely Russian response to the expulsion of its diplomats, and the need to restore its disrupted human intelligence networks. This resulted in many cases of suspected Russian illegals to be exposed. Among those arrested were Artem Dultsev and Anna Dultseva, who posed as an Argentinian couple under the false names of Ludwig Gish and Maria Rosa Maya Munoz. They were apprehended in Ljubljana, Slovenia, on December 5, 2022, on suspicion of espionage for a foreign intelligence agency and for certifying false information in official documents. These arrests, along with the expulsion of intelligence personnel from embassies worldwide, suggested that Irina was facing risks significantly greater than those encountered by Russian intelligence operatives in recent decades. January 2023 marked the beginning of Irina's fifth year in Greece and nearly a year since Russia launched its war against Ukraine. Until that point, Irina's cover had successfully deceived Greek authorities, allowing her to operate freely. However, that same month, officers from the Greek intelligence service received a tip about a third country's attempted access to the data of deceased Greek citizens. During an investigation at the Municipal Registration Office in Marousi, Athens, officers discovered discrepancies between the paper and electronic records of Irina's birth certificate. Some pages had been removed and replaced with others in the same handwriting. Russian intelligence had chosen the certificate of a stillborn baby named Maria Tsala, born and deceased in December 1991, and altered it to make it appear as Irina's birth certificate. After sharing her photo with cooperating agencies, authorities identified her as Irina Alexandrovna Smerova. After 4 years in Greece, Irina's cover was blown. On January 4, Irina left Greece, leaving all her personal belongings and a laptop at her home. She reportedly flew to India, and then to Thailand, before returning to Moscow. 5 days later, on January 9, her husband was reported missing in Malaysia, where he had planned to board a flight, and since then his traces have been lost. In late January, Irina contacted her landlord and her employee in Greece, using a phone number from Kyrgyzstan. Citing health reasons, she informed them that she would not be returning to Greece. Since then, Greek authorities investigate Irina's contacts and travel activity, in an attempt to uncover the supporting network assisting her, in all stages of her operation. There has been no reported public sighting of Irina since she left Greece.